In August of 2018, the world watched in horror as a seemingly normal father from Colorado appeared on national television, begging for the safe return of his missing wife and 2 daughters. His name was Chris Watts. He looked broken, confused, heartbroken. But within 48 hours, the entire truth would unravel, and what lay beneath the surface was something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. Pause. This is the story of how a quiet American husband murdered his entire family, and why. From the outside, Chris and Shanann Watts looked like the perfect couple. They lived in a beautiful 5-bedroom house in Frederick, Colorado. Shanann was a thriving businesswoman, working with a multi-level marketing company called Thrive. She posted daily on Facebook about her life, her kids, her husband, smiling family photos, loving captions. Chris, the quiet husband, worked as an operator at an oil company. He never said much, but always seemed present in Shanann's videos. Sound effect. Scrolling social media, clicking. Friends described them as happy, solid, and even inspiring. They had 2 young daughters, Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3. And at the time of the tragedy, Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant, with a baby boy they had already named Nico. On August 13, 2018, everything changed. Shanann returned home from a business trip at 1:48 a.m., dropped off by her friend Nicole Atkinson. But later that day, Shanann stopped answering calls. She missed a doctor's appointment and wasn't responding to messages. By early afternoon, Nicole became concerned and called the police. Police arrived at the house around 1:40 p.m. Chris let them in. Shanann's purse was there, her phone, her car, but no sign of her or the girls. Pause. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. The case gained national attention instantly. Chris Watts stood on the porch of his home, telling reporters how much he missed his family. He said he had no idea where they went. His TV interview went viral. But something felt off. If somebody has them, just bring them back. While the media showed a grieving father, investigators were already suspicious. Chris had failed a polygraph test. And then, he asked to speak to his father. Alone in a room with his dad, Chris broke. He confessed. Not fully, not yet. At first, he said he killed Sean, and only after she had smothered the children in a fit of rage. But detectives didn't believe him. Within hours, he gave the full story. He admitted to murdering Shanann in their bed, and then, shockingly, to smothering his 2 daughters, one by one, as they cried and begged for their lives. But why would a father kill his entire family? Investigators soon uncovered the truth. Chris was having an affair with a co-worker, Nicole Kessinger. He wanted a new life, fresh start. He saw his wife and kids as obstacles. Shanann had found out about the affair. Their marriage was strained. But no one imagined Chris would go to such horrific lengths to be free. Chris told police where to find the bodies. He had buried Shanann in a shallow grave at a worksite owned by his oil company, Bella and Celeste. He had stuffed their tiny bodies into oil tanks. These were places he worked every day. Only, quietly, as if nothing had happened. Chris Watts was arrested on August 15th. He was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, including for the unborn baby, Nico. He took a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. In November 2018, he was sentenced to 5 life sentences, without the possibility of parole. He now lives in a maximum security prison in Wisconsin. The story shocked millions. People couldn't understand how someone so normal, so quiet, could commit such horror. Netflix released a documentary, American Murder: The Family Next Door. It used real police footage, text messages, and home videos. It became one of the most watched crime documentaries ever. To this day, the Watts case remains one of the most disturbing family murders in modern history. It raised questions about toxic masculinity, domestic abuse, and the hidden lives people live behind closed doors. Shanann's family continues to advocate for victims of domestic violence. They say her name. They remember Bella, Celeste, and Nico. So the world never forgets. Chris Watts tried to erase his family for a fantasy that never existed. But in doing so, he made them unforgettable. Let this story remind us, behind perfect social media smiles, sometimes lie secrets darker than we can imagine. When news first broke about the disappearance of Shanann Watts and her 2 daughters in August 2018, the media portrayed Chris Watts as a heartbroken husband. He gave multiple interviews, including one to a local Denver news outlet, standing on his porch and pleading for his family's safe return. These clips went viral almost immediately. People shared them online with sympathy and heartbreak, until the shocking twist came just days later, when Chris confessed to murdering his entire family. The public's perception shifted overnight. The same man who had been seen as a victim was now the villain in one of the most chilling family murders in modern American history. Paragraph 2. Mainstream outlets like CNN, NBC, ABC, and the New York Times quickly picked up the story, and it dominated national headlines. Networks aired constant coverage, including body cam footage of police entering the Watts home, footage from interrogation rooms, and images from the family's seemingly perfect life on Facebook. The media focused heavily on the contrast between the family's public image and the horrific truth behind closed doors. It was described by CNN as a case of evil hiding in plain sight. Many outlets described it as one of the most disturbing domestic crimes in recent memory. Paragraph 3. Shanann's strong social media presence added a new layer to the media's narrative. Journalists and reporters often discussed how her constant Facebook posts, showing Chris as a loving father and husband, painted a digital mask over a marriage that was clearly breaking down behind the scenes. Some media experts argued that this case was a modern tragedy shaped by social media. It became a symbol of how curated online lives can hide very real emotional and psychological decay, a point discussed in detail by USA Today and The Washington Post. Paragraph 4. After the confession, Chris's mistress, Nicole Kessinger, became a central figure in the media narrative. Her name trended across platforms as viewers tried to understand her role. She claimed she had no idea that Chris was still married when they started dating, and later cooperated fully with law enforcement. Some media outlets painted her as a victim of deception, while others questioned whether she knew more than she admitted. Tabloids like the Daily Mail and TMZ published stories about her personal life, sparking debates about media ethics and privacy during high-profile cases. Paragraph 5. Netflix's documentary American Murder: The Family Next Door, released in 2020, reignited interest in the case globally. It was built entirely from raw footage. No actors, no narrator. And it used police cam video, text messages, and Shanann's own social media posts. Critics praised it for its authenticity and chilling emotional depth. The Guardian described the documentary as hauntingly intimate, while Variety called it a masterclass in storytelling through evidence. The media collectively agreed. It wasn't just the murder that shocked people, but how closely they felt they knew this family, thanks to modern media. Paragraph 6. Public reaction, heavily influenced by media coverage, was massive. The Watts case became one of the most discussed true crime stories on platforms like YouTube, Reddit, and TikTok. Thousands of people made breakdown videos, psychological analyses, and timeline reconstructions. Major media organizations also hosted podcasts and special reports diving deeper into the psychology of family annihilators. ABC's 2020 and CBS's 48 Hours both aired special episodes, calling it one of the darkest betrayals of family trust ever caught on camera. Paragraph 7. In the end, media coverage played a huge role in shaping the legacy of the Chris Watts case. The story became a global cautionary tale about secrecy, manipulation, toxic masculinity, and the danger of ignoring red flags. Shanann's family used media attention to raise awareness about domestic abuse and family violence. Today, this case is often studied in media ethics classes, psychology programs, and true crime communities as a tragic example of how evil can wear a smiling face, and how the media, when used responsibly, can shine a powerful light on the darkest corners of human behavior. The public response to the Chris Watts case was one of deep shock and emotional betrayal. People couldn't understand how a seemingly quiet, normal man could commit such a horrific act against his own family, especially while his wife was pregnant and his children were so young and innocent. Many described the case as soul-crushing and inhuman. Social media was flooded with emotional posts, prayer circles, and memorials for Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and baby Nico. Public forums like Reddit and Facebook were filled with angry reactions toward Chris, calling him a monster in disguise. Paragraph 2. Obsession with the case. As more disturbing details came out, including the full confession, autopsy reports, and text message logs, the public became even more obsessed with understanding how something like this could happen. People began analyzing his interviews, body language, and psychological profile. Viewers from around the world felt like they were personally connected to the case, especially because of Shanann's social media videos. For many, this wasn't just a murder. It was a betrayal of family, love, and trust. And that emotional impact made it unforgettable. Paragraph 3. Police Department's frustration and insight. From the perspective of the Frederick Police Department and the FBI, this case was both tragic and frustrating. Officers stated that Chris Watts showed very few initial signs of guilt, even cooperating during the missing persons phase. They described him as eerily calm and emotionally flat. The lead investigators later admitted that his fake public interviews and attempts to mislead them were emotionally taxing. Detectives said they had to rely heavily on their experience, gut instinct, and ultimately, the failed polygraph to break him down. Paragraph 4. Investigative success but emotional cost. Law enforcement officials were praised for solving the case quickly and professionally. The speed at which the confession, evidence, and charges came together was considered a textbook example of modern investigation techniques, including body cam footage, GPS tracking, and data analysis from text messages. However, many officers involved in the case later admitted they were emotionally affected by the gruesome nature of the crime, especially given the young age of the victims. Several described the case as one that will stay with us forever. Paragraph 5. Long-term impact on policing. This case led some police departments to revise how they handle domestic violence warning signs, missing persons cases, and behavioral red flags in suspects. Law enforcement agencies across the U.S. began training officers to look deeper into family dynamics, even when initial appearances suggest stability. The Chris Watts case proved that appearances can be deceiving, and that violent tendencies can be hidden beneath a quiet, passive personality. It changed how some departments approach initial missing person reports, especially when young children are involved. Paragraph 6. Societal reflections and media responsibility. For the public, the case forced deep conversations about toxic masculinity, suppressed rage, and mental health in men. Many psychologists and sociologists use the case to talk about how society teaches men to suppress emotion, avoid communication, and chase control, all of which can turn deadly in some cases. Others question the role of social media. Did the pressure to appear perfect online make the marriage worse? Did Chris feel trapped? While no excuse can justify murder, these questions became central to the public conversation. Paragraph 7. The need for early detection and help. Experts have since stressed the importance of early mental health interventions and emotional literacy, especially for men in failing relationships. Domestic violence prevention programs have started focusing not just on victims, but on identifying potential perpetrators before they act. Some have called for AI-powered early warning systems in family courts and therapy centers to flag emotional instability, violent language in texts, or sudden behavior shifts. It's controversial, but the goal is to prevent the next Chris Watts before tragedy strikes. Paragraph 8. A possible permanent solution. While no solution is perfect, many believe the long-term answer lies in a mix of emotional education, family counseling, responsible media use, and stronger domestic violence protocols. Schools, workplaces, and healthcare systems must teach people how to manage anger, express vulnerability, and seek help before reaching a breaking point. The Chris Watts case wasn't just about one evil man. It was about a system that missed the signs. If we want to prevent such crimes, we need to catch the storm while it's still forming, not after the damage is done.